Mr. Speaker, I withdraw those words. On a day like this, I would say he's all flannel and no axe.
Liberals get caught lying again. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. In today's House session here, we got also some other clips out of the House. Pierre Poilievre has a press conference. He says he's not supporting Justin Trudeau's tax holiday here. Because it's inflationary, it's going to cost a lot to the businesses to actually change over their machines to do it, and it provides very little relief to Canadians. Basically, restaurants seeing the primary benefit of this. With this said, what has happened is they've split the bill into two bills now, one for just the GST and one for the $250 rebate, which comes in April, and then the carbon tax gets jacked right after that. So they'll vote on that one later because Bloc and NDP refuse to support it unless it includes seniors, and there's a Liberal who also won't support it unless it includes seniors, who was threatened by Justin Trudeau. So let's jump into this. Take a look at this here. It says Freeland creates outrage from reporters after replying only to a question in French.
Merci beaucoup.
English on that. You can't just say that in French. Come on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It's true. I mean, Canada speaks English.
Weak Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of immigration, lost control of our borders. And now we're facing massive threats to our economy. Right now, there are as many as 500,000 people here illegally. There are 700,000 students who came here with the implicit promise they'd be able to stay forever. And now they're being told they have to leave with the temptation that they might head south for the much stronger economy than we have here, which would provoke a massive retaliatory tariff. So what's the plan to reverse all the damage the Prime Minister's done?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hundreds of thousands of people come to this country every year and then leave. They're called tourists. Hundreds of thousands of people come here as temporary residents and then they leave. Some become permanent residents. There is a
Look at them laughing about this. This isn't a funny issue. This is devastating Canadians' lives.
Plan to achieve that. They will migrate into permanent residency, but not all can stay here. And when they refuse to do so, they will be removed. But you can't make this up, Mr. Speaker. What the member opposite, the leader of the opposition, is doing with the member of Edmonton Millwoods is going around to these people, pandering to them, promising them to have visas and promising not to deport them. That's deport them. That is highly irresponsible and it's incompetent.
Mr. Speaker, that member hallucinates almost as badly as his weak leader, who refuses to stand and answer for his own border failures. Let's look at his record. He opened Roxham Road. He kept it open for a year longer than the Americans required. He put out a tweet saying, "Welcome to Canada," inviting people to come here illegally. According to that minister's department, there are 500,000 people here illegally, all of whom could be tempted to go south of the border, provoking a massive retaliatory response. So once again, what's the plan to fix what he broke?
Something I should note here, I'll make it big for you guys. What happened to the Liberals? That none of them show up today? Like, all the seats are empty. What does that say to Canadians when they don't even show up for work? Parliament's been shut down for 6 weeks now. They don't have anything to do. And not only that, they don't show up to the House?
We'll tweet out the video of him pandering to people, entertaining false hope, promising visas to everyone, promising they won't get deported. That's highly incompetent. Worse than that, Mr. Speaker, is he's refusing to get his security clearance. That is irresponsible for any purported leader of this country, any responsible person in politics. He needs to grow a pair, get the briefing.
Wow. That's not very parliamentary language now, is it? Fergus is looking at him. Just give him the stare down. So notice that there, his little hand motion. That little hand motion there is his little secret cue to tell them to cut the mics. That's going directly across from the main cameraman, which is the view you're seeing here pointed at Fergus. So someone is sitting in a booth there looking at him. So thus he's able to give hand cues to them when he wants to cut or uncut the mic.
There is a large flexibility that Speaker gives, of course, to the language that's used in here. But I think that might be beyond the border. I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister if he could just withdraw those words.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw those words. On a day like this, I would say he's all flannel and no axe.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, once again shows the erratic, out-of-control government we have over there. His prime minister is hiding from questions. His minister is losing control of his words and his mind. This is a government that is falling to pieces. The prime minister has lost control of the border, lost control of immigration, lost control of our finances, and now lost control of his caucus, who are saying that they've been intimidated into voting in favor of his tiny tax trick. He's lost control, but he's holding on to power.
So just a little update on that. Trudeau yesterday was saying how Pierre is the one who's muzzling his MPs. Well, it turns out it's actually Trudeau. We already knew this, but this is what's happened recently. We got this coming out today. It says some Liberal MPs side with a Bloc Québécois NDP asking to expand the $250 checks to retirees. So they don't like that this just favors working people, but not Canada's youth, retirees, or people on disability. On X here, Liberal MP Chad Collins says, "It's incomprehensible to me that our government can create an affordability package that leaves out some of our most vulnerable in society." With this, he told the Toronto Star he was threatened with unspecified consequences if he were to vote against the government's proposed $250 checks, which the PM announced along with the 2-month GST holiday on certain goods. Referring to the threat of punishment, Collins tweeted, "It's unclear what those consequences would be." But the Prime Minister is on record stating that the Liberal MPs are free to speak their minds and voice their opinions even when we have disagreements. Yeah, right. Trudeau's a strong-line dictator. That's what's really going on. So it's interesting that Trudeau's threatening his own MPs while the day before he's accusing Pierre Poilievre of that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what the member is talking about. I don't know what the member is talking about. On this side of the House, we can have conversations, we can have debates, and we don't get shut down from speaking like the members opposite, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about today.
This is just especially stupid because I just showed you guys that article of Chad Collins, and she says, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, you do. You know. The guy's sitting right back behind you there.
We are moving forward with a GST cut for every single Canadian. And what have we heard from the Leader of the Opposition? He's opposed to tax cuts, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, he's all talk, no walk. He's not there for Canadians on this side of the House. We're going to support Canadians and let our members have debates and conversations. Thank you.
Those are all lies. The reason why Poilievre opposed this is because it's going to create more inflation. It's costing businesses $500 to reprogram their machine twice. It's only for 2 months. Timing of it is stupid. It's not like they rolled it out mid-November for Christmas. It's who's buying a Christmas tree on December 14th. This money should be going to secure our border right now and get rid of that hard candy fentanyl problem that we have. And you can see here, Chad Collins, he literally does sit right behind her. She's sitting right here. The camera's pointed this way though, so you don't see him on camera.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that only 4% of small businesses expect a sales boost because of the latest last-ditch effort for the Prime Minister to save his own job. If he's so sure about his plan, why doesn't he call it carbon tax election and let Canadians decide?
With respect, the member ought to look at what the Retail Council of Canada has said on the matter, what Restaurants Canada has said on the matter as well, Mr. Speaker. Small business owners in my community across the country will benefit as a result of this tax cut. It's exactly what it is.
The restaurants are the ones that benefit the most. They have the least amount of work to do in this, not like a grocery store that has to go through and remove all that stuff, or like a toy store or whatever that has to figure out which toys are exempt and which ones aren't. The whole thing is ridiculous. Just take the GST off of gas, period.
They talked about Aaron O'Toole. That's exactly right. He put this initiative on the table in the summer of 21. We're supporting it now. You know who else supported it? The Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker. He reposted a tweet from Aaron O'Toole at that time, but doesn't want to support it now, Mr. Speaker.
So first off, Aaron O'Toole isn't the leader of the party right now. Pierre Poilievre obviously supported him because he was the leader of the Conservatives back then, and it was a different time. We've got a massive problem with our border. We've got Donald Trump saying he's going to absolutely decimate Canada if we don't clean it up. We've got reports directly from CTV saying Justin Trudeau isn't even taking it serious. Like, this is ridiculous.
Speaker, this isn't a tax cut. It's a distraction before a much, much bigger permanent tax hike. Even his own Liberal MPs are now opposing this. The member from Hamilton East Stony Creek says that he was threatened with, quote, consequences if he voted against it. Rather than threatening his own MPs, muzzling them like he's accused others of doing, we have a weakened Prime Minister terrified of facing Canadians. So if he's so sure about his own leadership, if he's so sure about his own plan, why won't he allow his own MPs to have a free vote on this one today?
I'm glad she brought that up. This needs to be known.
Workers going for groceries, Mr. Speaker, who want to eat out, who want to buy gifts during Christmas, Mr. Speaker. That's who's on our mind, Mr. Speaker.
Who can afford to eat out? Why is this crumb snatcher answering the questions? Where's their A-team? Their A-team's not even there. It's empty benches. Pathetic.
The Leader of the Opposition supported this initiative in 2021, but doesn't want to now because it's a Liberal initiative. Will the real Pierre Poilievre stand up in this House of Commons?
Yeah, at least he's in the House of Commons. I mean, look at this. Empty.
Turning temporary 2-month tax tricks won't save this desperate Prime Minister. After doubling housing costs, doubling the national debt, doubling food bank usage, now he's blaming Canadians for not feeling the vibe of this pricey gimmick. Now he's even threatening his own Liberal MP from Hamilton, East Stony Creek for not supporting this vote-buying scheme. Instead of threatening MPs to take cents off Skittles, call a carbon tax election now so common-sense Conservatives can axe the tax for good.
It's hilarious. Every time he brings this up, it was like Pringles and whatever else. He keeps bringing up a different packaged food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I know the Leader of the Opposition knows a thing or two about threatening his own MPs, because if they don't speak in 3-word slogans, we never hear from them again. But, Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that on this side of the House, we are excited to deliver a tax cut for Canadians. And for the mom...
How does she live with herself? Like, honestly, this woman is so corrupt. She's actively working to cover up corruption. And look at these two having a joyful conversation back here while this is all going on.
He would rather support himself than give them a break over the holidays. That's so disappointing, and Canadians across this country are disappointed in him. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, Canadians are disappointed in you and why you're even in the House of Commons. You're going to lose your seat.
The only thing they're cutting is moms that have to cut down on the nutritious food that they can give to their kids and sending them into food bank lines. And after this temporary tax trick is done, they're going to jack up the carbon tax on April the 1st, making everything more expensive. And anyone who doesn't believe in this Prime Minister's radical plan, he threatens them with consequences. This inflationary vote-buying scheme will add another $6 billion to this Prime Minister's growing deficit. Instead of taking chump change off chocolates, call a carbon tax election now so we can axe the tax for good.
GST that we are proposing to remove is going to be removed on essential items like groceries, like children's clothing.
It's funny she mentions groceries. If we actually look at the bill, though, now it's absolutely ridiculous. You can see the bill here, C78. Nowhere in this bill does it talk about groceries. Not once. The first whole section here is talking about stumbling juice and different types of stumbling juice with different percentages. It has to be less than 7%. It talks about video games, jigsaw puzzles, there's books, plush toys. There's no mentions of groceries in here, period. The only thing that talks about food is this. Section 13, a supply other than exempt supply of the service of providing, preparing, and serving food, which sounds like a restaurant. Stumbling juice beverages, eligible beverages other than food or beverages including catering service. Food and beverages are the consumption at the premise where they are prepared or served. So this doesn't make any sense. There's not one mention of a grocery store or food. So unless they're trying to wrap it into the providing, preparing, and serving food section of this, what are the Liberals even talking about? She listed groceries as the #1 priority. It's not even in the bill.
Like diapers and car seats. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the honourable colleague has children, but if he did, he would know just how expensive those items are for Canadians. And for Canadians who have to buy these essential items, this tax cut makes a difference, Mr. Speaker. I don't understand why Conservative members of...
This is so rich coming from someone who's making $300,000 a year. You have no idea what it's like to be a mother in this country, having to pay the prices at the grocery store, at the pumps, for rent. When you make that much, why are you still in Parliament? Go raise your kid. We don't want you in Parliament. You're terrible at your job.
Canada's 3 million temporary migrants do not appear poised to leave voluntarily. That's the headline from a major Canadian newspaper. The immigration minister naively expects that they'll leave voluntarily. Migrant advocates admit they have no such plans. This sets the stage for mass overstays and more illegal border crossings into the United States. This strains our relations with the newly elected U.S. administration, now threatening a 25% tariff if we don't secure our border. What is the Prime Minister's plan to enforce the laws and ensure that people who need to leave do so?
First, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite can get their facts straight. They float around numbers, 3 million, 5 million. They actually don't know what they're talking about in response to their own order paper question. I hear them heckling me, but who they really should be heckling is the leader of the opposition, who is pandering to all these groups, promising visas to everyone and not to deport anyone. That's not responsible. He really needs to grow up if he's going to be responsible. Thank you.
Wow, this is coming from a silver spoon loser, Justin Trudeau's childhood friend, who's given everything in life. A man here who is absolutely terrible at his job, doesn't take any responsibility, and is clearly becoming quite unhinged. Just listen to what he's saying today. He just wants to get into a verbal joust with these guys and throw out insults.
The minister had no answers at committee when I asked him the same questions. He doesn't know his numbers because he has no plan. It's really simple. The lack of a plan threatens the integrity of our immigration system. It risks significant diplomatic damage with this newly incoming U.S. administration. Are they deploying more police to the border? They don't know. Are they deploying advanced technology, and are they using it for border surveillance? They don't know. Are they going to use CBSA with more resources, more agents on the border? They don't know. YouTube videos aren't enough. Will the Prime Minister present a Made in Canada First plan that will make sure that everybody that's required to leave will actually do so?
Well said. Liberal bench getting thinner.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, it seems the Conservatives are a little nervous about me responding, probably because I'm going to point out the fact that they cut over 1,000 jobs from CBSA. They were warned that their cuts would lead to more guns, more...
You are running the government. It doesn't matter what the last Conservative government did. What did you do in the last 9 years? It's been a decade. Stop blaming Harper. He's not in power. He hasn't been in power for a decade.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday at committee, the Environment Minister recklessly promised to quadruple the carbon tax despite American tariffs that will cripple our economy. He gleefully stated, of course, we're going to continue with the carbon tax. With 40% of our economy dependent on trade with the United States, he should have just said, of course, I'm going to kill our economy.
That's right.
He's done it before, he'll do it again. Why is this minister so hell-bent on vandalizing Canada's economy?
And why?
Mr. Speaker, because of carbon pricing in Canada, it's generating $25 billion of investment every year in our economy, Mr. Speaker.
Are you talking about that Northvolt plant that just shut down? That's not actually doing anything? This one here that's breaking news. Beyond Northvolt bankruptcy, a story of West struggling China tightening its grip. Northvolt bankruptcy dents European battery industry. I just showed a clip the other day of people driving past that site, and there's no more vehicles working there. All the machines are gone. This guy's full of lies.
It's putting more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians, and it's helping us reduce our emissions for the first time in our history. If it was up for the Conservative Party of Canada, they would let the planet burn, Mr. Speaker. They would bring the economy down. They would let Canadians down. Not on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. We're there for Canadians. We will fight climate change. We will support the economy. We will create good jobs for Canadians.
This guy's the biggest scammer. He's got his own $35 million slush fund scandal with Cycle Capital, a company he's invested in, which came from green slush fund money meant to improve the environment, yet he's profiting off it. What a lying loser. He should be in jail. Normally I'd say give him an orange jumpsuit, but we already know he has one. Put your orange jumpsuit back on, Guibo.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's radical environment minister is willing to drive Canada's economy into the ground with no remorse. The carbon tax will cost the Canadian economy $25 billion by 2030. In the face of 25% tariffs, the minister can do something. He can cancel his planned quadrupling of the carbon tax. If the minister is unwilling to protect our economy, will the Prime Minister at least allow Canadians to protect our economy and call a carbon tax election?
The Conservative Party of Canada, when it comes to many things, including climate change, is extremely reckless. This is the party that's let the people of Jasper down, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, please, Guibo. You're the one who burned down Jasper with your lack of inaction, man. Everyone warned you. That catastrophe lies on your shoulders.
4 consecutive years, they invested nothing to protect Jasper from forest fires from 2011 to 2015. Zero hectares of fire removal. 0 hectares of mechanical removals.
Once again, it's Stephen Harper's fault. 10 years ago. 10 years. You guys have done nothing. You're just collecting millions of dollars. Cushy jobs, making tons of money, doing absolutely nothing. A bunch of losers, and they give themselves pay raises, pats on the back like they're doing something good.
To prevent forest fires, they let Jasper down. Now they want to let the Canadians down in the face of climate change. Not on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker.
Pierre Poilievre held a press conference today, and he was asked a few different things. One of them was if he would go down to Mar-a-Lago to talk with Trump, and this is what he had to say.
If invited, would you be willing to go to Mar-a-Lago before the next election to discuss these issues with Donald Trump?
I have not been invited to that, so thank you very much.
It's very clear why he doesn't want to address this. Canada has a split opinion of Donald Trump, and associating with Donald Trump doesn't help his cause here. Smart move. It was a silly question that would have been followed up with all sorts of ridiculous questions trying to paint him as some sort of Trump lapdog. Pierre's way too smart to take the bait. Exactly. That comment there sums it up. There you have it. Karina Gould caught lying right on camera there. They're always caught lying, but very blatant. Justin Trudeau saying Pierre Poilievre muzzles his MPs when really he's the one threatening his own MPs. Are we surprised though? At this point, it really does seem they're just going to keep kicking the can down the road. They're not going to name the names of the traitors in our government. They're not going to give over the documents to the RCMP for the SDTC scandal. What are we paying these people for?